Yeah, I've just obtained that filing. And basically what is happening is that Judge Scott McAfee is dismissing several of the charges here in Georgia against former President Donald Trump.
Trump, happy. MSNBC, very sad. All in all, it's a good day for America. All right, let's get right to the breaking news. And this was about an hour and a half ago out of Fulton County, where a judge has dropped some of the charges against Donald Trump. And listen, we could show you the announcement on Fox News or Newsmax, or maybe show you the write-up over at one of our town hall sites. But when it's good news for Donald Trump, when it's good news for you if you support Donald Trump, there's nothing at all better than receiving that news through the tears of MSNBC journalists. Let's enjoy.
Breaking news, Blaine. We wanted to ask you about the election there in Georgia last night, but we just got a filing from the court there in Fulton County. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I've just obtained that filing. And basically what is happening is that Judge Scott McAfee is dismissing several of the charges here in Georgia against former President Donald Trump. 6 of the charges in this order. The charges so far, and I'm still making my way through the judge's ruling right now, but appear to do with solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer. Those were certainly some of the charges that he was facing. Other people that were named, of course, Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, Johnny Eastman, Mark Meadows. And so this is certainly notable because the former president was facing a number of charges, but to have 6 of them removed is notable. Now, it's important to note he's still facing charges here in Georgia, still facing charges in Fulton County. We're also still waiting on a major decision from Judge Scott McAfee as to whether or not Fani Willis can continue to remain prosecutor on this case. This is not that decision. So to see this decision from the judge to come out this morning is a bit of a surprise. I've reached out to Trump's Georgia attorney here, Steve Sadow, who, of course, has been representing him as the lead attorney, to see if he has any comment. We've also reached out to the DA's office to see if they have any feedback or plan to push back on this ruling by the judge.
They don't seem very happy about it, do they? Did you notice how they said, "Oh, but don't worry, everybody. There's still other charges against him. So don't get too upset." That barely sort of getting through the report and acknowledging that, yes, this is a very big freaking deal. They were almost trying to downplay it. In fact, you'll see some of the analysis MSNBC does in a moment where they really go out of their way to downplay it. But this should not be downplayed in any way whatsoever. This is a very big deal. Why? Well, you just heard her say that those charges that were quashed by Judge McAfee here specifically related to charges that Donald Trump tried to force or influence a sworn elected official to violate their oath. What does that mean? Well, this all stems from that phone conversation that President Trump had with the Secretary of State. You keep hearing this as the smoking gun evidence against Donald Trump, that he was trying to fix the election and doctor it and change the outcome because he said, I need you to find me 7,000 votes or whatever it was that he allegedly said. The specifics in that phone call had to do with, listen, you're allowing ballots to be counted that shouldn't be counted. And by the way, you're also not allowing ballots probably that should be counted. And it's all because of Fulton County, because Fulton County is a mess. Everyone acknowledges that. It's one of the reasons why the state of Georgia actually passed new laws right after the 2020 election to tighten up the election process, specifically the way it got fixed, shall we say, in Georgia, in Fulton County. These charges have been dropped. Well, that's a big part of the case against Donald Trump, a huge part of it. We kept hearing that phone call and the pressure that he put on the Secretary of State was illegal. It was strongman work. It was authoritarian stuff, which is kind of ironic because if he was really an authoritarian, he'd still be president right now. So this is a big deal. Do you know how I know it's a big deal? By the way, here's a quick look at those counts as Greg Price put up the documents here. It's too small a print to read, but this is a big deal for a couple of reasons. As you just heard from the report, this was a surprise. We're waiting for Judge McAfee to come out and make his decision on whether Fani Willis should continue or her office should continue prosecuting this case, given the obvious conflict of interest with her boy toy there being the $1 million beneficiary of the contract given for special prosecutions in this case. No one knew that he was going to come in with this decision. What does this tell you? I mean, well, some people are looking at it saying, well, he's going to keep Fani Willis, so he wanted to throw a bone to the Trump team here by removing these charges. I don't think judges necessarily work that way. This is not about horse trading. It's not necessarily about politics. I think the fact is he's looking at what a mess this Fani Willis case is. And by throwing out these charges, it indicates that there's barely a case there at all. And certainly not the RICO case that she's trying with huge overreach to sell to a jury and to this judge, suggesting that it's racketeering. It's like the mafia for a president and his lawyers and his advisors to work together in an election, which is basically what they're charging here. It's a huge deal. There's another way that we know it's a huge deal. We know it's a huge deal because the tears kept flowing over on MSNBC. Watch how they bend over backwards to try to downplay this or try to rationalize this in some way and give their viewers and the women sitting at the panel here, as well as the producers at MSNBC, trying to give them some hope that there's still a case against Donald Trump in Georgia.
The most important and the most significant charge in terms of what the consequences would be is count one of this indictment, which is the RICO charge. And of course, that hasn't been dismissed against any of the defendants. When we talk about the 6 counts here that have been dismissed, and we talk about the full 13 against Donald Trump, only 3 of the counts against Donald Trump himself have now been dismissed. Those are counts 5, 28, and 38, all of which involve a solicitation of another public officer in violation of the oath. I am digging in on it as we speak, comparing the indictment to this opinion from Judge McAfee. But I want to point something else out and actually give Caroline an opportunity to, because she's the one who noticed it. In addition to giving the DA or the state an opportunity to replead, there is also a provision here that says that the state could just immediately ask for an appeal. So if the state doesn't like this ruling and they believe they have provided sufficient detail about which oaths each of the defendants who are impacted here have provided, then they can take an immediate appeal and perhaps an expedited one too. I still think Caroline's overall takeaway that an August trial on whatever counts are remaining is unlikely, but the state does have some options here on these 6 counts, none of which is the RICO charge itself.
So to sum up, listen, this isn't the most important charge that got dumped here by the judge. So we still got that one, the RICO charge, which is honestly the longest of long shots. RICO is never used in this kind of situation. It's only used because, well, in this case, they're trying to slime Donald Trump. And as you heard, they're trying to slime him by August so we can have that trial going on while people are just about ready to vote for the presidency. Oh, but of course, there's nothing political about this. This is just a legal proceeding, nothing political at all. And of course, you also heard the lamentations here that these analysts have to go through, wringing their hands because they're not going to get everything that they wanted thrown at Donald Trump. Well, let's just think this through for a minute. The crux of the RICO charge, the crux of the charge that Donald Trump tampered and put pressure on people to change the outcome of the Georgia elections, the key smoking gun piece of evidence is this phone call. The phone call that he had with the Secretary of State. That's all you heard about. That's all you saw and analyzed on cable news by all the Trump haters out there. They held this phone call up as the crux of the case. If anybody tried to say, listen, I don't think what you're saying is really a criminal act. I think that this is Donald Trump partly as a candidate trying to see whatever he could do to try to, by the way, most of the time, the case happened here before the election was certified in Georgia, right? So as a candidate, he was trying to do whatever he could to get the count in his favor, number one. And number two, as the president of the United States, he was trying to ensure constitutional integrity for the Electoral College. That's part of his job as a person who is sworn to protect and defend the Constitution. Well, if you're the president and you swore to protect and defend the Constitution, and you believe that the constitutional process of the Electoral College is being trampled on in various ways, well, you have a constitutional obligation to your office to intervene and try to make sure that it's done properly. That's going to be a big part of the president's defense there. Well, if you try to make that case, all you hear in response is, well, look at the phone call. Look at what he said to the Secretary of State. Well, you can go ahead and look at that phone call and look at what he said to the Secretary of State, but the judge in the case just decided that whatever it was that happened in that phone call, it doesn't rise to the level of criminal behavior because he threw out the charges directly related to that phone call. That's why this is huge. That's why it's big, and that's why you're seeing MSNBC cover it this way. Meanwhile, how's Donald Trump feeling right now? Well, he had some other news last night coming out of Georgia, and that was the final primaries that determine whether he's going to be the nominee for president of the United States for the Republicans. He got all of his delegates in record time, March 12th, and he put out a statement to his supporters to that effect.
Hello, everyone. It's your favorite president speaking to you on a really great day of victory. 1 week ago, we had something called Super Tuesday, and it was indeed super because we won at numbers that nobody has ever seen before, records in virtually every state. And tonight, likewise. But this one got us over the top. The Republican National Committee has just declared us the official nominee. And so we're the official nominee of the Republican Party, which is a big deal. But most importantly, we now have to go into victory because our country's in serious trouble. We have millions and millions of people flowing in. We have no respect on the world stage. What we say doesn't mean a thing anymore. And to have that happen is unthinkable. We have an economy that outside of certain little areas is doing very poorly. And we have something very, very important. We have a United States military that has to be taken care of. Again, this was a great day of victory. Last week was something very special, Super Tuesday. But now we have to get back to work because we have the worst president in the history of our country. His name is Joe Biden, sometimes referred to as Crooked Joe Biden, and he must be defeated. Our nation is failing. We're a nation that is in serious decline. We've never had a situation like this where we're not respected, we're laughed at, we're considered almost a joke. We're going to turn it around. We're going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to close our borders. We're going to do things like nobody's ever seen before. And we're going to make our nation's economy be the best ever in the world. We had the best economy ever just a short while ago, and we're going to have that again. We're going to have people come into our country, but they're going to come in legally. And we're going to get your energy costs down by numbers that nobody would have said even possible. We have some sections of this country that are paying the highest numbers in the history of our country and among the most expensive energy anywhere in the world. And yet we have more liquid gold, I call it, under our feet than any other nation. Just 3 years ago, we were energy independent. And now we're going around begging for energy. So we're not going to have that anymore. We're going to have a strong country. We're going to have a respected country. We have to win an election, and we should win it by a lot because there's never been anybody worse at doing that job than Joe Biden. So we're not going to take time to celebrate. We'll celebrate in 8 months when the election is over. November 5th, I believe, will go down as the most important day in the history of our country. So start thinking about it. Start thinking about your vote, because this vote is going to be the most important vote you've ever cast. And again, for this evening and for last week and for all the weeks before, for the tremendous success we've had in this primary, I want to thank everybody. But much more importantly, we have to get to work to beat Joe Biden, the worst administration, the worst president in the history of our country. They are destroying our country, and we're not going to let that happen. Thank you very much.
So, listen, I know you come here for my take or my analysis and sometimes my explanation of events in the world today. And so I'll make it kind of simple here with regard to the charges dropped now against Donald Trump down in Fulton County and just the last 12-hour news cycle here in American politics. Trump happy, confident, focused. MSNBC, very sad, very distracted, kind of confused, looking desperate. All in all, it's a good day for America.